News Weekly.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Batman News Weekly. This is episode 178 in year 4, and we are recording this a day early, and we have very little news, but that does not stop us from talking about Batman, because we got, of course, some James Gunn news talking about, what's going on with the movies and also his effect on comic books, which is really crazy. Tom King did an interview on the Word Balloon podcast recently talking about many things, but also what we can expect from Brave and the Bold. And also, we got a lot of viewer questions that we're going to dive into as well. And of course, a couple comics this week. We didn't have any last week, but this week we will be covering some comics that I read and Clay apparently did not.
I said that I was looking through the comics the other day, and I kept on seeing every other freaking Elseworld book that were not really the Joker Who Stopped Laughing is not an Elseworld book.
Yeah.
But it was just a book that we stopped reading. And so I was like, oh, we don't have anything. Little did I know, my eyes were literally glazing over the fact that freaking Gotham Year 1, number 5 was right there in front of me the entire time. And I missed it.
Yeah. So we will be talking about that, or I will be talking about that. And so, we will have that. Interesting enough from that podcast, Tom King says people aren't reading that. But I also don't know if that is an over exaggeration. You know what I mean? I feel like any writer might say that if you're not getting the sales you want, maybe. People aren't reading that. I say that when people aren't watching my videos. I'm like, oh, people aren't watching when I still have hundreds or thousands of views on certain things, So I'm curious about that, but we could dive into that later because there were a few things said in that podcast. But let's dive into the James Gunn discussions with, first off, the one thing a lot of people seem to be most concerned about is the video game tie-ins. So what news do we have on this? So
we don't really have anything as far as the tie-ins go. I know we had a small discussion last time about the fact that there's still a lot of voice actors that are still voicing their concerns over the fact that hey, we're probably not ever going to be working on DC projects. These projects are the big concern really when it comes to the overall aspect of the video game tie-ins is the fact that I don't know if did you ever sit down and play Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order?
Is that the one with Cameron Monaghan?
Yes.
No.
Okay. So the really big thing about that game is that it is set in a time in the Star Wars timeline that has already been told, as that of The Mandalorian, which is really booming right now. They were able to create a character, tell this story, and not really affect too much of the overall story because The Mandalorian is set between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, which is a 30-year gap. Yeah. And so you could have a lot of play with that sandbox of 30 years. Whereas Fallen Order is between, I believe, it is between Revenge of the Sith, Episode 3, and A New Hope, Episode 4.
Okay.
So you have about 20 years to play with there. So still a large enough gap to really develop a character, but there's still concrete story bookends that you can't really mess with.
Yeah.
And this is I brought this as a discussion that James Gunn has been telling people that have been having this concern. Hey, do I have to play the game to understand the story? And he has told people no. He has flat out said, you do not need to play these games to understand the story. And it's because I genuinely think that we had this conversation about the overall slate. Well, we are getting possibly Nightwing, but a lot of people are disappointed that we're not getting the Dick Grayson Robin story.
Yeah.
We could be getting a Dick Grayson Robin story in a video game.
Yeah.
And
that'd be cool.
It for people of that love that character, you may tell yourself, damn it, now I have to play this game. You
Mhm.
don't really,
Yeah.
but you're going to because you like that character.
Yeah.
My grandmother doesn't have to sit and watch me play 3 video games to understand a movie that she may or may not want to see. You know, just
Yeah.
random people out there in the general audience don't have to buy these video games to understand what James Gunn is going to be doing with the new DCU.
Yeah. Perfect example is for anybody that is worrying about, oh, I have to play a video game, stop. Because YouTube is a thing, and there are literally people out there that will play the whole game, no commentary, so you can experience it without having to buy it.
Yes.
So there's
And-
nothing for you to worry about.
And even more so, just recently, I made the example of Jedi Fallen Order because over at my other podcast, Star Wars Alliance, we just recently received advanced copies of the tie-in between the 2 games because Jedi Survivor is coming out in April. Jedi Battle Scars comes out at the end of this month. And so we got advanced copies of it. I'm reading it. And I was like, okay, well, I need to remember some of the stuff that happened in the game. I don't want to play the entire game again. I literally just found a 2-hour video that I put on ×2 speed and watched all the cutscenes to get all the big plot points. And that's what people can do.
Yeah, and you can literally watch. There are people that will do just the cutscenes, so it's basically the story. Now, granted, I feel like you missed a little bit by not playing.
Yeah.
But for the most part, if you just want the main points, you can just watch the cutscenes. So for anybody that is worrying, like, oh, I'm gonna have to buy a console or a PC or whatever, you don't, because you're just gonna have to wait a week or so for somebody to play the game, because people will do it day of launch, beat the game in 12 hours or whatever, and then that video will be out within a week. So you're going to be totally fine. Don't think you'll have to buy something like that. And maybe this will turn you on to a different viewing experience. Also, I highly suggest maybe try out watching people on Twitch or something play these games, or YouTube. I mean, but Twitch is a bigger platform, but you can actually watch somebody play these games, and it might be a new experience for you if you don't already do that.
Did you just say Twitch is a bigger platform?
For streaming? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For streaming only. Only streaming.
I was about to say, I was like, whoa, this is different juice over here.
No. Only streaming, which that is factually correct. They have more users when it comes to the live stream portion. And YouTube I think YouTube's viewing experience on streaming is better. It's not as engaging as Twitch chat. I think Twitch chat is more fun. But the rewind feature on YouTube is by far the best thing when it comes to streaming, because if you missed an inside joke, like, oh, what happened? And you go back and you're like, oh, so like, it's just so much better. And you can pause it. You can pause the stream and then just keep going. You'll be behind. Chat won't make sense to you, but you can always just hit the live button and go back. So best feature bar none, in my opinion. But moving on from that. James Gunn clears up the video game stuff. But another thing James Gunn has done is comic boom, man. Like, it is insane that he had a vision on what he wanted to do with comics, and it seems like as of right now it's working. He has said that he doesn't want comics to die. He loves comics. He wants it to be a thing. And his video announcement with everything sent a comic boom, because comics are selling out. DC's, not Marvel's. But DC Comics are selling out right now. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, gone on Amazon. That was there forever. You could buy it all day, every day. Totally gone. What was it? The Superman. What was the Superman that got bought out?
It's All-Star Superman.
Yep.
That is all sold out. Authority, all sold out. Now, I will say there's a little bit of an asterisk on Authority. Authority has already been out of print.
Yeah.
So the little that were out there in the ethos, those sold out. And then also Grant Morrison's Batman Omnibus #1 has been sold out. And then recently, I just shared this with Juice yesterday, and I was trying to find it today so that way I could order it in time. I literally just checked while Juice was saying all this stuff. But the Absolute Swamp Thing Volume 1 had a very big steal sale
Yeah.
over at Hamilton Books. It is the current price, or the actual price is $99.99. Currently, you can purchase it for $35.
That's a steal.
It is currently on back order, so it has sold
Ooh,
out.
You should have bought it yesterday.
The price is still there,
mhm.
so if they order more,
Mhm.
because this is just how comic book shops and bookstores do their sales. If you purchase it at the $35 while it's on back order, they will still give you that book with that price.
Okay. Yeah, absolutes are awesome, but they're coffee table books. I will tell you that right now. I have
Yes.
rarely ever pulled out the absolutes. I have to read them. Like, they are coffee table books, so just FYI, it looks great on your coffee table. I'll tell you that much. But they also, the cool thing about absolutes is they usually come with a hard case for the book, which is really awesome. And you actually
And
pull it out of the
the
sleeve.
reason why I shared this one with Juice has a very large fascination with absolutes, because they sometimes share scripts and gives a
Yeah.
little insight on how writers, construct a book. And so that's why I shared it with you.
Oh,
So
you didn't tell me that though.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
well, I
You
I,
should
I
have
know
told me.
that
Yeah.
usually absolutes have scripts in them. So
Yeah,
that's why I
yeah.
went ahead and shared it with you.
I bought the Joker one because of that. I don't know if Hush has it, to be honest. I bought Hush because now I bought it at a discounted price still, because I saw it at a half price bookstore and it was like $60. And I think it might have been at the time. I don't know if it was 99 or if it was like 120. So like definitely a steal at the half price books place at the time. And it was in great condition. So I was like, sweet, I'm buying this. But yeah, absolute books are really cool. It is Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, so if you like Alan Moore, should be a. I have not read that one actually, so it would have been nice to check that out. I will say about the Grant Morrison omnibus, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if you've read that. I've read bits and pieces of Grant Morrison's Batman run, and I'm reading it right now because I want to see what's going on. Dude, he jumps all over the place. Like, I will like.
Yeah.
It's so weird on if I'm reading the proper story, because it'll be like him and Damien, and then it'll jump to like this story about Damien 666 in the future, and then it's like we're back to Talia and Bruce's relate. Like, I'm like, what is happening here?
It's a very odd non-linear story. Again, I am not a big fan of non-linear stories,
Yeah,
but the way that Morrison tells the overarching story throughout
yeah,
those does work well.
yes,
Because it has an overall theme. There's the plot points that you can clearly see as like, hey, this is where the story is going. It is
Mhm.
very clear, and so that's what I do like.
Yeah, I will say the benefits of the randomness of the Morrison run is it is refreshing to read something, I guess, kind of random at times, because as we're going to discuss later today in Batman 132, we're kind of stuck in that story right now. And I'm just like, ugh, like this is, I don't want to be here anymore. You know what I mean? Whereas Grant Morrison, it's like, why am I reading about Damien in the future? Like, this is weird, but it's still an enjoyable comic book. And you're just like,
Mhm.
okay. But yeah, that book is kind of all over the place. So if you are someone that is going to read Grant Morrison's run, just know that it might seem all over the place, but the overall story is there. So just an FYI. And he has written a lot. I just read, I had never read this issue before, but I guess it's the introduction of Batman Inc., where he goes and he uses the words League of or Club of Heroes, which makes sense now that I read Joshua Williamson's run, because he used that word and we were like, what? You know what I mean? Because remember
Yeah.
how like it was I read I skimmed the run recently because I might be working on some stuff, and I was just like, this was so bad. It started off so great and ended so bad, where it's like, we're working for Lex Luthor. Actually, we're working for Abyss. oh, Batman just used a code word, so now we're working for Batman because we're super mega double agents. And I'm just like, what happened here? But I never understood the Club of Heroes reference, but it dates back to the Grant Morrison run, which we know that all the comic book readers comic book writers that we're reading now were very in love with Morrison, it seems. So it makes sense that they're referencing. But again, it's Williamson, and he doesn't do flashbacks well. So if you've never heard of the Club of Heroes before, that just goes over your head like it did with me. But now that I've read that issue, I'm like, oh, makes sense. It's actually a pretty cool issue, though, too. Somebody was murdering a lot of the people in that club. So I thought it was pretty dope. But anyways, what are your overall thoughts on everything selling out just because of an announcement?
I think this is good. Now, again, it's good for the brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, some would say, well, he's not doing it correctly. And the reason why I think people would say that is because a lot of these has sold out. It's all from Amazon.
Yeah.
People are one click away, boom. One click
Mhm.
away, boom. And what most would say is, hey, he needs to encourage the local comic shop. He needs to really pimp out the small businesses and things like that. And I totally agree, but I think that is our job. That is the
Yes.
job of the fans when it
Mhm.
comes to people who, because for us, we know that, because let's face it, the prices now for these books are climbing.
Mhm.
Issue one of Woman of Tomorrow, I think is now at a steady 25 to 30
Yeah.
first issue, which is absolutely insane because you can buy the entire trade for a little less than that.
Yeah.
And that's something that people need to understand as well. Take it from somebody who is a collector, who went on the trip of trying to be the key collector to,
Mhm.
when it comes to it, wanting to enjoy a story, don't go after these high priced books.
Yeah.
If you're looking to enjoy the story and you want to buy a physical comic, buy the trade.
Yeah.
It looks nicer on a shelf. It's all in one. You can read it. Or if you're not a physical person, you can always go the DC Universe app
Yeah.
route. It's super easy. It's right there. It's all available. But I think that the overall idea of what Gunn is doing is good for the brand.
Yeah.
And something that, again, he has the higher up on that Marvel is not doing.
Yeah.
Because Kevin Feige is in control. He is basically James Gunn and Jim Lee put together. That's what
Mhm.
Feige's power is over at Marvel. But Kevin Feige just tells the publisher, hey, these are the next few things that we're going to be doing in our universe in the movies. We want these books to be pushed out.
Yeah.
He's not engaging with the audience. He's not letting them know all of these different things. And I think that hurts because, again, we've seen that the direct market for movies does not cross over to the books.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Gunn is specifically saying, hey, these are the inspiration. And our inspiration to make movies are writers. Here's all the writers who made these books as well. So he's making it easier for the general audience to connect the dots and be like, oh, it all makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
This character was written by this person who wrote this book.
Yeah.
You have a harder time doing that when looking at the Marvel movies.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
I also think that it's an added benefit that since this is essentially a soft reboot, I think a lot of people view it as a reboot, that don't understand the difference between soft, hard, all that kind of jazz. I think they're like, oh, this is the perfect jumping on point. And if Gunn is mentioning this stuff, let me go read ahead so I can be ahead of the curve, right? Because what a lot of people don't realize, I mean, because if you're listening to this podcast, maybe we're your only interaction to this kind of world. Like there's, some people, you probably don't have friends to talk to this about, but there are people out there that want to have like, what do they call it? Water cooler talk, right? And they'll be like, oh, did you hear about that new Batman movie? And then they're like, oh, yeah, I wonder what it's going to be about. I'll be like, oh, well, I actually read the comic book that it's supposed to be based off of, and this kind of stuff happened. So that might be kind of cool. There are people out there that do that, like genuinely do that. Now, granted, a lot of people will just read stuff online or like read, like me back in the day, people would watch my content and be like, oh, yeah, I watched this guy and he said that Joker might be doing this because it happened in the comic. You know what I mean? So, like, there's a lot of those out there. But, I think this is really good and beneficial that Gunn was like, hey, we're going to do Superman, Batman, and the Green Lanterns, but we're also going to do these zombie-looking dudes, these authority-type people, and these other, like, pre-Wonder Woman Amazon people. And so people are like, who the fuck are those people? I need to go learn about them. Now, unfortunately, like you mentioned, a lot of those books are out of print. So it's already going to be hard to kind of find that stuff. But people are looking. And now that also gives reasons for the CBRs of the world, the Raps of the world to make these articles that say, Wonder Woman explained, or freaking, Tom King's Supergirl of Woman of Tomorrow explained. And you can learn that way. So there's just this massive dump of all of these characters that are taking over the airways, right? And then you still have the Snyder fans out there being like, oh no, like it's gonna suck. Which I don't know how that's still on my timeline. Granted, I am seeing people starting to say, get over it. Like,
so oh man, I have to share this. So the Snyder Bros have a hashtag for February 14th, which is supposed to signify like the 2 hours and 14 minutes of what the original Justice League movie was supposed to be, which doesn't even fucking matter anymore because the fucking movie turned out to be 4 fucking hours.
Yeah.
Like, people are fucking idiots. But they have this hashtag, of course, of the whole like sell Zack Snyder's Justice League to Netflix. These Snyder Bro bot people created a deep fake of Henry Cavill Superman, telling them to share the hashtag and like telling people that that Warner Brothers and DC is open to selling DC intellectual properties to Netflix.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in the streamer community recently, there was this big thing of a streamer that I would watch occasionally, got caught watching deep fake of other female streamers. Not safe for work stuff. Yeah, weird. I don't know. Which, to be fair, I've made the jokes about like when I was young, looking at Britney Spears nudes and stuff like that. I didn't know Photoshop was a thing. I didn't know deep fakes were a thing. I thought that was just Britney being wild online. I was just like, oh shit.
Like, god damn.
Yeah, Britney, you crazy. But as I've gotten older, like that stuff doesn't really appeal to me anymore because like there's real stuff out there. So I'm just like, real stuff. Now, granted, like if I'm looking at like spicy, like anime stuff, like that shit's all fake anyways. So it's just like, oh, cool, whatever. But it doesn't appeal to me to be like, oh, I watched this streamer person and I'm just like, I want to go see that. Now, granted, I can see maybe a younger person, maybe that's their Britney Spears nowadays, which would be kind of weird. But as I'm older, I'm like, the idea of somebody doing that without somebody's consent is really gross. Yeah. So now that I'm seeing, like, obviously it was terrible for these women that had to like see themselves in these ways that they don't want to be seen because they're not, they're not the ones that have OnlyFans and stuff like that. So I'm just curious, like how does Henry Cavill feel about that? You know what I mean? Like, I think with AI getting so ridiculous, I think government needs to step in at some point and being like, oh, if somebody makes AIs of you without your consent, that is like a suable offense. Like, we need to have some kind of laws because eventually it's going to get pretty crazy. I just heard Obi-Wan Kenobi, OG Obi-Wan Kenobi, read freaking fictional Star Wars fanfic porn in his voice. and it sounded so real. And I was just like, wow. It was like him and freaking Luke getting it on with one of the Star Wars ladies. And I was just like, this sounds like the actor, and it's fucking insane. And so it's wild. So was this a video or an audio of him? Deep
This
fake?
is so like when I'm looking at the video here, it is like so from the neck down,
Mm-hmm.
it looks like maybe like CGI drawing animation of, but it's still,
Yeah.
and then like it's a very like deep fake cartoon.
Okay.
So like it's supposed to look like Henry,
Yeah.
but it's not Henry, but the voice is almost dead on.
Yeah, the voice stuff is pretty insane. And the reason why the voice stuff is so good is because there's so much of his voice online that they can just throw that in the AI, and the AI can replicate it, which is so nuts. Oh, that looks awful. Like, that looks worse than the mustache, in my opinion. And the mustache was pretty bad. Granted, though, that does look like a video game, though.
That's what I mean. Like it looked like CGI animation type thing.
Yeah.
So
podcast listeners, we're describing what we're seeing right now.
I was able to share the screen here for Juice. And so you could clearly see that everything else looks like maybe like hand drawn or whatever.
Yeah.
But like the head is computer generated, like moving around to make it look realistic. Yeah.
I thought, I don't know if let's see, if you go to my likes on Twitter, I don't have anything spicy, so don't worry. I've been liking wrestling ones recently because they've been doing some funny stuff. Go look at the AI. Don't listen to it, but just look at the SummerSlam one. I thought it was going to be like that. Just go to my likes and look at how Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar are singing. Like,
and that looks more realistic, though, right? Yeah, for sure.
So if you guys want to know what I'm talking about, go follow me on Twitter. Go check out my likes. And I've been liking some wrestling stuff lately. And there's just this stupid one that somebody had two of the wrestlers singing, which I thought was very funny. So yeah, AI is getting really scary. And eventually, you know what? The one thing is AI will eventually let Snyder Bros make the movie that they want. Their 5 trilogy thing, they'll be able to do it. The scariest thing I've seen so far, which is like, obviously there's going to be benefits to AI, right? But I feel like people are going to use it for the really bad shit first before they do the really good shit. One of the good things I saw is they're starting to make AI to the point where we're no longer going to have to worry about dubs when looking like shit when it comes to, live action, because they're able to dub the mouth and everything perfectly with AI. And it just looks like it talks perfectly in Spanish, perfectly in Korean, Japanese. Everything looks fucking fantastic. And you're just like, God damn, that looks awesome. So I think that's going to be very beneficial for voice actors in the future and stuff. But at the same time, that shows me you can deep fake the fuck out of anybody and they can say whatever the fuck you want and it looks real. And so yeah, eventually there's going to need to be some laws about this, because I mean, we could deep fake the fuck out of politicians right now, but it's not going to affect them because they don't care. But it's going to have to eventually be something crazy where people are like, no, this is fucked up. And it's going to have to go to lawsuits. A lot of these streamer women are actually going to be suing the guy at the website that had all this stuff on it. So good for them. But yeah, it'll be very interesting. I think AI this year is going to have a boom, and we're going to start seeing some regulations in the next few years because that shit's getting scary. But the cool aspects of it is you're probably going to be able to make some really cool Batman shit. Kind of like how people make mods and stuff in video games. Like, there's going to be cool shit. And there's going to be funny shit. Like, there are going to be people that know how to do funny stuff with AI, but without taking it over the fucking top, you know? So it'll be crazy, crazy stuff. But I don't know how we jumped on that. Oh, Snyder Bros. But yeah, wild stuff. How long do you think they're going to keep going? Snyder Bros.
As long as DC is alive.
You think so?
They will keep going.
I think it starts dying down if the new Batman's a hit. That's what I think. because I think a lot of them are just they want something as cool as Ben Affleck's Batman.
No, but here's the thing though. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so I don't think it's gonna be Batman.
Okay.
I think it has to be Justice League. And
Ooh, okay.
the reason why is there was so many people who shit on the entire idea of Zack Snyder's Justice League
Mhm.
that after Zack Snyder's Justice League came out said, "Oh fuck, that was actually a good movie."
Mhm.
Like there was so many people, surprisingly, even
Yeah.
surprisingly to me, like
You're talking about the Snyder Cut,
yeah.
right? Okay.
There was a lot of people that were hating on the idea of the Snyder Cut. Then actually, after the 4-hour movie dropped on HBO Max, they're like, "Holy crap, that was actually better than the one that came out in theaters." Like,
Mhm. Not
and
a
so
hard comparison though.
not a hard
Yeah.
comparison, correct?
Yeah.
But that gives validity to like see Snyder can build a better universe than that of a theatrical movie. Like
Mhm.
that's what they're fighting against.
Yeah.
So right now, individual characters coming out in theaters, that's whatever.
Mhm.
But when you have a blockbuster James Gunn freaking Justice League movie come out
Mhm.
and it goes gangbusters, because all those people that were saying, "Oh, Zack Snyder's Justice League was actually a good movie," that's all still nerds. Like
Mhm.
the general audience probably still has no fucking idea about Zack Snyder's Justice League on HBO Max.
Yeah.
No idea
They
whatsoever.
also probably see the runtime and they're like, "No, thank you."
Exactly.
It's so hard to sit down and watch a 4-hour movie.
Abby and I did it in parts, and
Yeah.
even that, like, I was having to be like, okay, let's cut some time out of this day to sit
Yeah.
down and watch this one part of the movie. Okay, next week comes around, let's watch the second one. It was horrendous when it like came to
Yeah.
watch it with somebody who isn't like willing to sit down and watch the whole 4 fucking hour movie. You
Yeah.
know?
I complain about the Batman runtime. Watching the Snyder cut, I was just like, there's 2 more hours. Like, oh god, like fuck. It was rough. But anyways, do we have anything else on the topic? It was mainly those 2 things. Let's dive into the Tom King stuff. So I listened to the Tom King Word Balloon podcast recently. Well, Word Balloon is the podcast. Tom King was on it. I believe his name is John Suntrist.
Yes.
He's a fantastic podcast host, by the way. He just has one guest every time, most of the times, I think. I think he's fantastic. He has a radio voice. He used to work in radio, and I just love listening to him talk.
He has been doing this for a very, very long time. Like, I think since like the beginning of the 2010s, if not earlier.
Yeah. So he's phenomenal with what he does. I think he's really good friends with Tom King because Tom King has been on the podcast many a times. I think he even mentioned it that this is going to be like 20 years of him knowing John pretty soon. So he's been doing it for a really long time. I did post a lot of my thoughts in the Discord. Mainly, Tom King did talk about The Brave and the Bold, which is something I've been very curious about. He says it's going to be a Batman Joker story, which I kind of rolled my eyes at because I love Batman Joker, but I kind of want to take a break. And even Tom King writing that, I'm just like, ugh. But I'm still going to read it, obviously. But anyways, it is going to be a 4-issue series, which kind of shocked by that it's only going to be 4 issues. It's going to deal with Batman and Joker early on in their careers. I'm curious if this will be pre-Robin or not, which would be very interesting because that would be extremely early on in his career. And but Tom King did say that this is a very unoriginal idea. So I'm glad he's calling out, like everybody does a Joker Batman story, right? So very unoriginal. But he's, hoping he could still bring something to these 2 characters that have had a million stories told about them. And so, yeah, what are your thoughts about another Batman Joker story coming out?
We've had way too many. Like literally, it's finally ending right now. Well, no, it's not even ending right now. I think it's ending next month. Or no, I think it's ending in April. I think it still has like a full like 12 issues, but that Batman Joker Deadly Duo thing.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think it's like
that.
it's either like 9 to 12 issues. It's a very odd number. I can't remember. but like it needs to take a break. Like because again, the idea of movies, right? We're like,
Mhm.
okay, when is the Batman gonna drop? We're gonna get Joker, we're gonna get the Batman Part 2, then we're gonna get Batman Brave the Bold. Like we're always getting Batman. We're
Yeah.
always getting Batman. And to always get Joker as well, it's very repetitive, very redundant. He has a rogues gallery. Use them,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And when I think of Batman Brave and the Bold, I don't think of Batman and Joker.
Yeah, that's what I thought was weird to use that title for a Batman Joker story. Like,
I think it's unfortunately, I think it's just hey, people will gravitate towards this title because we haven't had it in a while and it's something people really want,
yeah.
but we'll sell it as a Joker story just in case.
Here's the theory, though. Gunn has said that King has been one of his right-hand men going into making the movies. Is the Brave and the Bold Tom King stuff a hint at what we might be seeing in the DCU? Now, granted, King says this is early on in his career, so I would assume Damian wouldn't be there. But could it be maybe like something that's referenced in the movie?
So I went ahead and mentioned this to my other podcast group of friends because of some of the stuff you were saying when we were first initially talking about the slate.
Mm-hmm.
There's too many similarities in the slate and this new dawn of DC
Yeah.
to just wipe it as like this isn't something that's just coincidence, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that it could very easily be something that Lee and Gunn
Mm-hmm.
devised as like, oh, well, since you're doing Dawn of DC, let's do this in the movies and we'll synergize.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very possible. And you know what? That might be a way. And it could also just be a gimmick of like, hey, you're going to announce this stuff. So we'll kind of announce similar stuff to sell comics. You know what I mean? And maybe people will think they're the same, but maybe it'll just be getting them into comics at that time, which could be a fair play as well. But you know, I do think that they're going to be taking a lot more from Grant Morrison's run than anything Tom King would be doing now. But I just do think I do find it kind of interesting because yeah, they're sharing the same title and neither of them have to do anything with the OG Brave and the Bold, which granted has changed over the years to be more Batman centric instead of team ups and stuff like that. So kind of like anything that's ever Batman, it's always Batman centric after a while. So if you include him. Some other interesting things that I heard on this podcast was Human Target was not King's idea. Well, not an idea he pitched. He made a joke about the Human Target at some point on Twitter, and one of his editors came to him and they were like, hey, do you want to write Human Target? And he was like, huh? And he was like, sure, you know? And which is crazy because that is one of his best works, in my opinion. I think it is fantastic. Another thing was that he has actually something else that he's doing in Dawn of DC that hasn't been announced. He's waiting on DC to announce it. So curious on what that could be. I wonder if it's going to be another thing tied to the movies. Maybe he's writing Creature Commandos. Who knows? Which would be wild. So
I'm going to say this. I'm going to need King to convince Gunn for a Batwoman story that is co-written by King.
That would be awesome. I'd be down. We've been kind of hinting at that, but we've said it on this podcast. You know, maybe King's a secret listener, and he's like, "Fuck, they said it. I can't write it anymore." So, you know, maybe that's the thing. That's the way I want to look at it, at least, because I don't know why we haven't got that story. Also, King wants to write more Superman, but every time he goes and asks for it, somebody's fucking writing Superman. So if you like King's Superman, you can blame everybody else that's writing it right now. Because, well, yeah, that's kind of something he mentioned. And then he also said that nobody is reading Gotham Year One, but he also did say that a lot of his stories usually start off very slow. Now, me and Clay had a discussion about this in the Discord, and Clay, your perspective was because it doesn't have capes.
Yes. So I equate this to that of Star Wars and Andor. So, Andor, if you watch it on Disney Plus, and if you hear everybody else talk about it, it is the best show of Star Wars. Like, hands down, it has become like the number one thing about Star Wars. But nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about it so much that Disney gave like the first like 6 episodes to FX. And of course, they own FX, but they put it on a platform that isn't streaming. So that way people would come to their streaming service to watch it. Like, that's how, like, they're like, hey, we need people talking about this.
Yeah.
And I said, it has the Star Wars problem. And the Star Wars problem is if there ain't lightsabers, nobody wants to watch it. And with this, with something that should be superhero centric, and the idea of you plaster Batman's name on it. Yes, we've seen Batman twice at the end of the issues, I think.
Yeah. Once, maybe? I think maybe it's only once.
Oh, maybe it has only been once.
Yeah.
It was at the end of the very first issue. But they keep of course Slam Brady keeps referencing Bruce Batman at the very end of the book to remind you, hey, he's telling this story to Bruce, but you're not seeing anything from it. And so I think a lot of people that turns them off. Like, they don't, oh yeah, you know what this is? Oh, that would be kind of cool as a TV show, but not something I would just sit down and read.
I've seen a lot of people online reference it to Gotham City Central.
Yeah.
Which is one of the best fucking Batman kind of Batman books there is, because there are villains in that book, but they're not the main story. And I do think that is one of the best books written in the DC universe, in my opinion. But I will say that, King did mention that a lot of people pick up his books later. And my counter argument was that I just think people read Tom King's stuff in trades, because Clay has had this thing where he's like, I just gotta wait for it to be over or something like that, And I think a lot of people have that mindset, because King isn't going to give you action every single issue. Like, it's not going to be wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Like, he's not fucking Chip Zdarsky where he's going to have Batman fall from the moon and shit. You know what I mean?
Don't not fucking do remind me of that.
Hey, man, he's going to be taking the cake in this next issue. But I think it's not King's style. He is about the story. And I think Gotham City year one has been fantastic. Granted, I am the biased Tom King person on this channel, apparently, but I think it has just been phenomenal writing. And I don't know. He said that people weren't reading, Supergirl. And now it's one of the hottest selling books right now. Granted, the movie has been announced.
I was going to say that has a big influence on it.
Yes.
And although I will agree with you in the sense of his other titles, such as Omega Men and Mr. Miracle.
Yeah.
Mr. Miracle took, I think, probably near the end of the story, issues 8, 9, 10, was when people finally were like, oh shit, like this is a really good story. Now, I'll be completely honest, I have not heard a lot of people pop off about Rorschach.
Yeah, but apparently that was, I think, well received. But here's the counter argument, right? Like, to this whole thing and why I think it doesn't matter, because, like, especially when it comes to your Andor stuff, right? Like, I guess you're saying a lot of people aren't watching it. Apparently, a lot of people are watching the new Avatar movie, and I don't hear anybody fucking talk about it.
That is fucking true. That is fucking
wild. True. Like, and it's funny because, like, a lot of people say it's probably the people you're following, right? And I'm like, the people I follow would probably be the ones to talk about that movie. You know what I mean? And I still see nobody talking about Avatar, but it's making bajillions of dollars. And so I feel like the metric of what's being talked about... It has officially
made more money than the first Avatar.
Yeah. So, like, I feel like we can't put too much stake into what is being talked about. You know what I mean? Because shit's making money. And I think also the thing, like, with Supergirl is it was selling because I know a lot of people were starting to buy the book after it came out fully because a lot of people wanted the hardcover. And everybody kind of knows, like, oh, you got to go buy books if you want the hardcover. You know what I mean? That's what kind of sucks because I have some Tom King books that are, trade paperback, and I only want the hardcovers. And I'm just like, fuck. I have like 2 or 3 Mr. Miracles.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, for me, if I wanted to get Supergirl, I wanted a hardcover now.
Yeah.
And I don't even think they've made a hardcover for it yet.
No, Tom King has said that he has messaged DC because everything's sold out. And so I think they're going to be working on another printing. Hopefully, it'll be hardcover this time because that's what I would like. I'm surprised King hasn't got an absolute in any of his books.
Well, let's be completely honest. You can't have an absolute of Batman. And the reason why is because it was polarizing. Yeah. I think that there is enough hate of that Batman run to affect the sales on it. Affect the sales of like pre-orders and shit like that, which will definitely kill any possible like future Tom King absolute. I do think that they should make one for Mr. Miracle. I think out of all of his books, I think that one is the best selling.
Yeah, probably. Because that was while Batman was being made.
Mm-hmm.
So, I actually saw, I had shared this in the Discord since we're still on the Tom King topic. I heard people talking about the Batman run, like just 2 random dudes. I don't know who they are. Sorry if you listen to this podcast and this is your video. But if I can actually pull it up, where did I share it at? I don't know if you watched this video, Clay, or not.
You shared it in, I believe.
Did I share it in comics or did I share it?
Yes, you shared it in comics manga. It is the Comics Tom 101.
Yeah, why readers don't like Tom King's run. And this was something that I didn't know. Their idea of why they thought a lot of people didn't like King's run is because it followed Scott Snyder's. And it was very different, and everybody constantly compared them to that.
Yes.
I agree and disagree a little bit with that. I think a lot of people were upset the wedding didn't happen, and they felt jaded by that or slated by it not happening. They thought it was like a gimmick, and they're like, oh, you were just doing that to sell comics and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of where they turned on King a little bit, I think. There were people that didn't like Batman in his feels, as people would say, which is what I absolutely loved because I've seen a bunch of Batman just fighting and kicking ass and doing stuff for 80 years. So like King brought something different to Batman, which is something I really, really wanted. But the thing that struck me in this whole video is somebody asked Scott Snyder a long time ago on why Batman doesn't have relationships in his book and if he ever will. And yeah, we've talked about this on this podcast, and Clay like had a revelation when I brought it to his mind that Snyder doesn't know how to write relationships, not well at all, if at all. And in this thing, when they asked him that, they were like, well, no, I just don't. The exact quote is, why doesn't Batman have relationships is what Snyder said. And it's because he's Gotham sexual. Meaning his only relationship is with Gotham. And it's weird. These 2 guys, the Comic Tom podcast or whatever, said they don't want to see Batman in a relationship. Now, they didn't give their reason. I don't know why. Everybody says, like, I don't want it. But why? Like, give me your reason why you don't want him to be married.
Well, I genuinely think people are afraid that, like, if he... And it's a very toxic masculinity thing.
Yeah.
Like, if you show emotion, you are no longer as strong as they thought you were.
Yeah. Did you see that video of that streamer chick recently that talked about guys? If you use the crying, like the teardrop emoji, you're gay.
Oh, you shared it. Yeah.
And then she was all like, back in war times, you had to kill people. Like, no shit, bitch. Like, it's war. Like, this is why I wish we would invest more in education. But like, yeah, I saw that recently, and it's not just from men. Like, there are women out there that think that too, which they probably have parents that have that mindset, and that's why they have it. But or they love Andrew Tate. Either one, I don't know.
Yikes.
But I thought that was so like weird for Snyder to say. Like I never heard that ever, that Batman is Gotham sexual.
We've had the conversation of
Yeah.
how he talks about Gotham like it is a lover, sweet talking
Yeah.
it in the sense of like, oh, I have to protect it and things like that.
Yeah.
He's passionate about his city, but like he's still a fucking human being.
Yeah.
Like, come on
Yeah.
now, people.
Yeah, are we gonna go like overboard and he's gonna be like fucking the city? Like, are we trying to do the Doctor's Wife episode? Are we trying to is Gotham gonna be a human person in one
No,
issue?
that's why in the Tales of the Dark or was it what Tales of the Dark Multiverse
Yeah.
was when he like sacrificed Damien and then like became Gotham, remember?
Yeah, I don't know. So there was a monster truck Batman in that thing, like so weird. I will say these guys made an interesting point on how King's Run like low key also felt like a Catwoman run, like essentially, because
Mhm.
we were seeing a lot of character development of her actually giving up Bruce because she thought he was more important for Gotham than her being married to him, which I thought was a very solid point. It blows my mind that that run is so divisive. But I will mention that I don't know where I heard this, and I might have put it in the podcast, or not in the podcast, but I might have put it in the Discord, that it was a wrestler that said it, that when it comes to wrestling, you rather have people really hate you or really love you, because you can turn those people around and make them really hate you or really love you. But if people are quiet about you, you can't do anything. So it's better to be loved or hated than not talked about at all. And King has that because his haters talk almost louder than his lovers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think, and here's the thing too, is I will say this. We talked about this in the Discord. When I see people hate on shit, it makes me research the thing they hate. And if I find out that they're hating for a stupid reason, I get interested in that thing. And most recently, that happened with that damn Hogwarts game. I don't give a fuck about Harry Potter. I don't care. I didn't read the books. I have dyslexia. Reading wasn't my favorite thing growing up when those books were popping off. So I'm not in that group. I like the movies. They're cool. I've read one of the books, but Harry Potter just isn't my thing like the way Batman is, right? But I know people love Harry Potter, but they fucking hate J.K. Rowling. And the thing right now is everybody's like, if you play that game, you agree with J.K. Rowling's views. And I'm like, what? Bitch, no.
There's weird people on both sides. I literally
Yeah.
just saw a tweet that like has somebody like they have the box art that
Mhm.
says "come and take it," but like there's a gun underneath the words "come and take it." Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck, people?
Yeah.
Like, for me, I was a fan of Harry Potter and like the idea, because you always think about this, even like as a kid, like freaking with Batman and Superman, the DC universe, Marvel with Power Rangers, things like this. You're like,
Mhm.
oh man, wouldn't it be so cool to be in that world? And
Yeah.
people are like, wouldn't it be so cool to be a fucking wizard? And now you can. And people are like, no, you're a transphobe. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, what?
Yeah. And now obviously don't agree with the people that are getting involved with it just to be in the part of the culture war. Like, I think that's really fucking stupid. My thing is the reason why I'm interested in playing the game is because I saw that people that are against J.K. Rowling harassing other people that were playing the game.
Yeah.
Hey, if people don't share your views, that's totally fine to disagree. But to harass people is on a whole different level. And I think you are just as bad as the people you're fighting against. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't think I saw this one chick in literal tears, like you could hear her in tears, which I thought was really fucked up. So yeah, I think that's just super fucked up. So anytime I see something like that, I'm like, now I'm interested in the game. So your argument is just bad.
And when it comes to Tom King, there was like the moment his name popped up in the articles or in the video with James Gunn announcing his movie slate,
Yeah.
like within seconds, I was getting notifications like, oh, fuck this. I'm never going to watch these movies. Blah, 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 blah. He's going to destroy the entire DC universe. It's like,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, people, come on.
Yeah, the right-wing publisher websites had an article ready to go for Tom King. Like, I was just like, okay, comics, all right. But anyways, that's enough of that. Some interesting talking points there. Definitely go listen to that Word Balloon podcast, or the if you're in the Discord, check out that Comics Tom stuff as well if you want to see a different perspective. And they're real chill talking about it too, because I've got on some people talking about Tom King, and even if they don't agree with him, they're like, this fucking guy, blah 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 blah. These guys are so fucking chill, even though they seem like they enjoyed parts of it, but they don't enjoy it overall. One thing they did say that I thought was interesting, and I want to get your perspective on before we move. They said Tom King didn't have like a huge moment like the way the Court of Owls was in Scott Snyder's. Agree or disagree?
Agree.
Okay.
And the reason why is, for one, he didn't have, of course, a new organization that he created. There was nothing big that like evolved the character of Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what would have evolved the character of Batman? The wedding. That would have evolved the character. If it would have been able to actually gone through and we would have been able to see that change,
Mm-hmm.
I think that would have been the Court of Owls moment for Batman.
Yeah.
But instead, we kept on this Bane thing. We got a little bit of Gotham Girl. Like, there were moments there that could have been a lot bigger, but I think with the averting of the wedding and having to change things up a bit from there,
Mm-hmm.
because I also think, oh crap, I can't remember her name. Who was on Catwoman at that time?
Joelle Jones.
Joelle Jones.
Mm-hmm.
There was supposed to be synergy with that, and then it quickly veered away. Like, I think that there was a lot of tripping when it came to the time of the wedding, that issue 50 and issue 1, that like, we'll see where it goes from here, you know? And so I do believe that there wasn't a Court of Owls moment. There was nothing that re-evolutionized Gotham or Batman.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Although I do feel like the Bat-Cat stuff is talked about a lot from that run. I think that is the most talked about thing from that run, because you didn't get it in that form. Like, you've never had Bat-Cat like that before. It's always been like little one shots here and there of like, oh, they're kissing, or oh, they're teaming up. But this was like, she was in the majority of those issues, you know? And but I agree. It's not as big as the Court of Owls, but it's also like King didn't really try to introduce a big organization like that, right? Whereas like the Court of Owls was phenomenal. Like, I enjoyed the Court of Owls. I think everything in the Snyder run up until Batman losing his memory is fantastic.
Solid.
So yeah, I think it's great. But yeah, I would agree with that. And I do think the wedding would have, if it actually happened, would have been the biggest talking point. But I don't know, man. I would love to ask King, and he's probably talked about this before, because I think it was always meant to go down like that and end the way he end with them getting married. But I want to know how much DC editorial was intervening in that, because we know that they intervene in Tynan's. So I'm curious on if that's why they kicked him off at the end, because they're like, we're not doing the wedding, so fuck off, you know? But I really wish we would get that whole story at some point. But maybe there'll be a tell-all eventually, but who knows? Anyways, let's move on to viewer questions, ladies and gentlemen. Let's do the Discord ones first, because I think there's only like one.
There's two of them here.
Okay.
So we'll go with the one that's a little bit more comic book Batman centric. Over with Arwitz asking, what's the first comic you would want your kids or theoretical kids to read?
Okay, I want to put a stipulation on this, because I think we would probably do like Batman kid stories or Superman kid stories first.
Yes. So so just to let everybody know, me and my wife wanted to be super prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, Juice, I know that you probably had these when you were a kid. You know, the Golden Spine books?
Yeah.
The little golden books or whatever they're called. there's DC Comics books like that. So
Okay.
I grabbed like 2 or 3 like Amazon ones, and then like The Flash, and like just very child friendly books. Those are books to introduce the characters. But I'm not going to hand my daughter a comic until I know she can handle a comic. You know?
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna assume, I don't know, you probably get them started around what, like 10 to 12, 10 to 13 area time.
That's kind of where I'm preparing. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything I would read has more mature stuff. I mean, because if I'm gonna give my kids something, I give them a Hush, right? I'm gonna give them that right off the bat. Like, check this out. Like, fucking read it. It's crazy. And that's probably what I would do. But I would sit them down and let them know, like, this is okay, this is not okay, blah blah blah. I don't know where else. I mean, I guess you could. Here's the weird thing: is like if you start your kid like let's say 66, and they fall in love with that, and then it turns into bad, like darker Batman. Like, what if they hate it? They're like, no, I like the goofy stuff. Like, then you're just like, oh fuck, like I just ruined this kid. Like, I got to start over. Like, we did another one. But like
factory reset.
Yeah. So like that would be kind of dangerous to it. I mean, you could also explain it, but like it's one of those things. I think you fall in love with your first version of something. Doesn't mean you can't love the character over time. But I think, if you started watching wrestling when it was the Attitude Era and it was crazy and wild and there was blood and cage matches and people getting thrown off the Hell in the Cell, like you think that is the greatest wrestling of all time. Where there are kids now that grew up with John Cena and CM Punk and they think they're the greatest wrestlers of all time. And I'm like, bitch, what? Get out of here. And so like, it's very different. So, I mean, I'm just going to say, I don't have any kids. Clay can answer this very differently. I'm giving them the best Batman stuff that I would go. I'd be like, you got to read Hush. Like, this is fucking fantastic. So, but I would let them know, like, what is okay and what is not okay. Like, you should not like the Joker. Like, he's bad, Yeah. So, yeah.
So I would go with 2 books in particular. One would be Mark Waid's Superman Birthright. I think that is a phenomenal story that kind of gives you like the true essence of who Superman is. It introduces like Luthor, like it introduces and gives a little insight to like the Kryptonian stuff. Like I think it's a very thought out, like very well thought out story. And it just shines hope of what Superman is. And so Superman Birthright would be one that I would give her. But also going back to some of my roots in childhood being Power Rangers, there's a series called Go Power Rangers, which is a little bit brighter, drawn by Dan Mora. And I would be giving her that one because it's just like it goes almost not parallel, but it has a lot of things from the TV show in there. It pops because of the colors and everything else, and it's just like really, really fun. There's nothing too like dire like Batman Hush or like there's no Joker in Power Rangers, So probably that as well would be another one. Like probably the first 2 would be those 2.
Yeah, I didn't realize it said comics in general. I don't remember the name of this comic because I used to buy them for an ex-girlfriend of mine. It was like this book that didn't have words, and the whole story was all pictures, but like it was like fantastically drawn, and it had to deal with like animals and stuff in space and shit. I don't remember what it was called, but it was fucking great. I felt like that would be perfect for kids.
And then also right above me right here, in my camera, I'm pointing for Juice's sake, is Calvin and Hobbes, the Absolute.
Oh, okay.
I have all 4 volumes there. Calvin and Hobbes is possibly another one that is like it's not always kid friendly because like Calvin is like a menace sometimes, but it's a really fun thing that got me into comics to begin with. Nice. I started with Calvin and Hobbes and Garfield in middle school, checking them out on the library. Yeah. And that's what got me into comics. So I think that would be a very easy in for my daughter.
Yeah. If my kid's being bad that day, I start with The Walking Dead. So, what the fuck? What Carl. But yeah. So, anyways, moving on to the next thing is Young Boner 69. My question is, if you had to get rid of one of these foods, what would you choose? They said they would choose pizza. The questions are, or the items are burgers, wings, pizza, or tacos.
This is fucking hard, dude.
Yeah.
Because again, like you said, this conversation popped off in the podcast portion of our Discord and not the food portion.
Yeah.
And there was, I can't remember who said it. Was it Young that said it, or somebody was like, "Oh, you can get a really good pizza, but you can't like get a really good like some." I can't remember what they were comparing. But in all honesty, if I had to get rid of one of these, I think it might be wings.
Interesting.
And it's hard. It's hard. Because for one, like all four of these are things that me and Juice used to get at our old job.
Yeah.
All the freaking time. We would get wings because there was a Wingstop very close by. Burgers, there was a Whataburger and other places really close by to our work. Pizza was like a last minute, like, hey, let's just get this before we go into work so that way we have something.
Yeah.
And tacos, like where we live, it's just like super convenient to get tacos anywhere.
Yeah. If I got rid of tacos, that would be racist. So I don't want to do that. Because I specifically asked, are we going with these 4 pictures? Because they had crispy shell tacos that are garbage.
Yes, I hate crispy shell tacos.
Like the ones you buy like at Walmart or something, those taco shells are fucking garbage. Crispy tacos can be good if you're doing them homemade, but those store-bought ones are trash. And they were like, no, in general, tacos is a breakfast food. It's a lunch food, and it could be a dinner food. I'm not getting rid of that.
100%.
Pizza's my favorite food. I'm not getting rid of pizza.
Well, that's something that I wanted to put in Discord. Like, I know it's your favorite food. And I was like, there's no way he's getting rid of pizza.
It's not pizza. Because here's the thing. I've even had bad pizza, and it's good. You know what I mean? Because here's the thing. I have said the best pizza ever, and no, you can't ever recreate this, is the Square Cafeteria pizza, because on that day that it was pizza day, it was always hype. Everybody's like, it's fucking pizza day. And we know that pizza tastes like trash, but the feeling of getting that shitty pizza on pizza day is the best feeling. So I can't get rid of pizza. Here's the thing. It's between burgers and wings. Burgers has so much variety.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had bad wings before, and bad wings fucking suck.
Yes.
I was going to go with burgers originally, but I would probably go with wings because there's not much you can do with wings. Wings are wings.
And see, and you go to Wingstop, they have like freaking 12 different flavors. That's 12 different ways you can fuck up. Like for me, for wings, you either have a wet sauce or a dry rub.
Yeah.
And that's it.
You can change crispy the flavors wings up sometimes. You know, but not everybody makes good crispy wings.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like, fuck. And it's just, here's the thing too. Out of all of these, wings are the messiest if you're getting bone-in wings. And I know everybody bitches about boneless wings and fancy chicken nuggets or whatever. Dude, I don't like to be a mess after I eat. So like, I'm not, burgers, depending on how sloppy the burger is, it's not that bad. But yeah, wings don't have that much variety, and I think I would eliminate wings. Now, also too, like, does burgers encapsulate all types of burgers, like chicken burgers? Because that substitutes wings right there. I can just get saucy chicken burgers.
Boom.
So yeah, I'm getting rid of wings there because like tacos can be so many different types of things. I could have a burger pizza if I wanted to. I can get chicken on a pizza, and so like. I can't get a burger on wings. It's not going to work. So I'm getting rid of wings. Let us know in the comment section what you would get rid of if you're on YouTube. So yeah, moving over to YouTube, we got Clay. Pick only 2 games to be released now. The others will never be made. Gotham or Batman Gotham by Gaslight, Batman/Superman World's Finest, Batman Samurai, Batman Beyond, Batman 66.
This is fucking hard.
Yeah.
And I can already tell you there is only, well, I was gonna say there's only 2, but there's really 3 for me. So I played the fuck out of Ghost of Tsushima. If you were to tell me, hey, we're going to make Ghost of Tsushima, but put Batman in it,
yeah,
fucking sold. But also, we've always said a Batman Beyond game would be fucking amazing.
Yeah.
But also, for me, having a goofy, like, turn the Arkham games into Batman 66 games,
yeah,
would be goofy as fucking hell. And I think it would be fun. But at the same time, I feel like that is Lego Batman.
Yeah, that's true. It could be. It's as much as like, I feel like World's Finest wouldn't have a perfect balance between the two characters, so I wouldn't want to play it because like
that was that was the first one off my list. I think it would be too complicated.
Yeah, I don't think it would be kind of over. Here's the thing though, Clay. As much as I would want a Batman Beyond game, out of all of these, I don't think it's one of my choices. So
Really?
Yeah, I think because we talked about this recently. Imagine Gotham by Gaslight, but made by like Naughty Dog. So like, because he's not going to have the grappling hook. I don't think he has the grappling hook in Gotham by Gaslight, right? Is it like just a hook and a rope?
I think it's a whip. I think
okay. So yeah,
or
so
something
imagine,
like that. Yeah.
I could be wrong. Correct me. I haven't read that book in a while, but I don't think he has all the gadgets that he normally has. And so like, I can only imagine like that. I think that'd be fantastic. And then, yeah, something very different, like a Batman Samurai game or Batman 66, I think would be. Because I only, like, did you ever play Conker's Bad Fur Day back in the day? Which was huge on N64.
Familiar.
It was huge on N64. It was, you're a little squirrel, and it had, like, South Park type of humor. And it was fucking wild.
Oh, yes.
They had a Matrix level before the Matrix even had a game. And like it blew my mind. Loved Conker's Bad Fur Day. If you gave me a Batman 66 with some random ass humor like that, I think I'd fall in love with that game. So I'm going, yeah.
I'm looking at Gotham by Gaslight right now. It looks like he is steampunk inspired still. So he does have a mechanism that does have a grappling hook.
Okay. I think I would still go with it because knowing Naughty Dog, they would probably force you to be select when you use that device, so you wouldn't be able to swing all around the city. You'd have to be like on the ground and stuff a lot, you know. So I would still go with that, and then yeah, probably give me a wacky Batman 66 game, and I think I'd be down. As much as I would love a Batman Samurai game, it's still gonna be a samurai game. But a wacky 66 game that I can just throw on and play, I think I'd be down with that. So I'd go Gotham by Gaslight and Batman 66.
So I would choose Batman Samurai and Batman 66. So it looks like Batman 66 would definitely be a playthrough for both of us.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I know somebody actually responded to this, which was Moncray. Moncray said, I would pick World's Finest in 66. So there's another person that would go 66. Which is kind of crazy.
I like the examples that he gives, though. He's like, so essentially you're saying Batman Red Dead, Batman Genshin Impact, Batman Cyberpunk. And I mean, he's not wrong.
Yeah, for sure. All right, moving on to Jason Todd. Does Jim Gordon think Batgirl is hot? If he did, that would be as unfortunate as a bullet to the spine. I don't think there's ever been comic book evidence of that. Now, granted, if you watch Harley Quinn, that Jim Gordon probably thinks Batgirl is hot. But no, I don't think that's the case at all.
Where is this comment? I'm not seeing this anywhere.
It's Jason Todd. Maybe refresh your stuff or go to newest or whatever. I'm on the actual Batman News Weekly thing.
Yeah. Now I see it.
Yeah. So, I don't think he does. I will say the one thing about Jim Gordon is he has no problem cheating on his wife, but he usually cheats with women that are around his age, I think. Maybe slightly younger, not his daughter's age.
Yeah. Well, and let's not forget, like, a lot of these comics, they basically have the underlining story of, like, Jim Gordon knows that she's Batgirl. So I don't think that he would find Batgirl attractive.
Yeah. Now, Bruce, that's a different story.
Oof.
Eduardo de la Cruz. Okay, who'd win? Tim Drake versus Riddler, Harley Quinn versus Phantasm, Condiment King versus Oracle.
God damn it.
Condiment King's not beating Oracle. I'm sorry. You gotta try harder. I think it's kind of fucked up that you went for the disabled character. I think that's really fucked up to try to win that thing. But the one thing, although Titans did it horribly, they showed that a wheelchair doesn't mean shit when it comes to Barbara Gordon. She still fought. That fight could have been better, but she still kicked ass. Oracle's beating his ass because it's not like she's just not going to be able to do anything. She has gadgets and shit in her whole area.
Go read Birds of Prey, written by Gail Simone. She still made her a badass.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say Oracle is winning that fight.
Yeah, Condiment King, you got to try harder. If you guys are trying to make Condiment King be a winner, you got to try harder. Harley Quinn versus Phantasm. I think Phantasm is amazing, but Harley Quinn has dealt with so much more than Phantasm. She's beating her ass. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Tim Drake versus Riddler. I would like to do this in a battle of the minds. Who do you think is winning?
That's kind of how I would consider it, because I think that Tim Drake beating Riddler is way too easy of an answer. I think that this would also be I don't know. So, okay. Adventures. Batman Adventures. Is that Tim Drake or is that Dick Grayson?
I think it's Tim Drake now, because remember Red Hood showed up. Remember? Oh wait, are you talking about the actual animated series or the Adventures Continues?
No, the animated series.
Drake shows up later.
So it's Dick Grayson to begin with.
Yes. It's Dick Grayson for a long time.
Yeah. So I can't give that example because that Robin in the episode that I referenced last episode, the
maze.
If you're so rich, why if you're so smart, why aren't you rich?
That's Dick Grayson.
Dick Grayson won the mind of that one. He was able to outwit the Riddler with his maze.
Yeah. Dick Grayson doesn't get enough. He's too pretty for people to care about his mind.
Yeah.
You know,
unfortunately.
Yeah, disrespectful. So disrespectful. Pretty people.
I would have to. Man. I know it's something that you don't like because of the whole thing of like, oh, Tim Drake was able to find out who Batman was.
Yeah. So was the Riddler, though, according to Tom King. Yeah, a lot of people don't like it, but yeah.
True. Oh, man.
Which is why I think that origin is so dumb, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, it is what it is.
I'm still going to give it to Tim Drake.
I think, physical fight, Tim Drake, 100%. I just feel like I'm trying to be unbiased because I feel like the Bat family could beat anybody, you know? So, like, I want to give it to the Riddler, but at the same time, I'm just doing that because I want to give it to the Riddler and not be biased. But I do think Tim Drake wins that out because at the same time, physically, he beats his ass. Granted, I will say that Tom King did try to make, and this was in his Batman run, not necessarily the what was it called? One Bad Day Riddler. He tried to make Riddler actually like physically imposing at times, which I thought was kind of cool. But yeah, I still think Tim Drake beats his ass. Raphael, fuck you for this comment. Overdone, and I hope it's not taken in the wrong way, but those of you who have the main cover of the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow issue number 8, can you raise your hands, please? I said this, I think on the podcast or on Discord. I think it was on the podcast, actually, that I don't have the number 8 issue because my comic shop, for some fucking reason, decided to give me the B cover. Now, and I've seen this done before, and I think I just got bamboozled. I've seen some people at that comic shop take out a cover I wanted and get it from another box.
Yeah.
So I think I got bamboozled by one of the newbies over there. fuck you, newbies. I don't know why I don't have a legacy fucking number or some shit on my box. But
let me actually see issue 8
got
A
fuck.
cover. Okay, so it's her laying down. Hey, this B cover isn't bad.
Yeah, but it looks different compared to all the other ones.
It doesn't match everything else.
Yeah, it
that's
doesn't have the
one
title
thing.
on it too.
Oh yeah, that's true.
You
That's
know,
true.
so like you put all of them out, and then you're like, "What the
Oh,
fuck?"
it does have the title, but it has it on like
Yeah, that
it
sucks.
has it going down.
Compared to all the other ones, it looks fantastic. It doesn't look good. It stands out. It's the redheaded stepchild. Like
Yeah.
that's what it is, and it's just like, oh man. But yeah,
The one
Raphael,
thing
fuck
that I
you.
hate about B covers nowadays, they used to do it like synergy wise, as far
Yeah.
as like, okay, all the A covers are by the exact same artist, and all the B covers are the exact same artist for a time. And then
Yeah,
if they need to change it, they'll change it. I'm looking at Supergirls right now. Every single B cover is a different artist.
yeah, it's interesting. Interesting. Speaking of something Raphael posted, Raphael, by the way, don't if that fuck you was not serious, by the way. The Raphael posted this in the manga or comics manga section that Art Germ is going to be taking over the B covers
I saw this conversation.
for Batman
Juice, I think you
135.
need to calm down a little bit because he is right.
No, I think, but so I don't know if you saw. Did you see the whole conversation? Because I corrected my stance.
Okay, hold on. Let me see.
Because I think my stance is factual.
It is. It is
Yeah.
factual. I think that there is a lot to say when Art Germ pops up on a book consecutively.
Mhm.
As of right now, we don't know if he's on more than one cover for Batman, but we
Okay,
have
yeah.
seen in the past,
Mhm.
especially that of when Supergirl had its main title, when
Catwoman.
Catwoman had its main title, when who's another big one that he did for a very long time?
I don't think he ever did Wonder Woman. It was that other artist that was really good that did Wonder Woman.
Friesen was
Yeah.
the one for Wonder Woman.
I think he did Harley Quinn for a while.
He did Harley Quinn for a while. It is something that we know as comic book fans
Mhm.
that like when a high grade artist is put on a book, especially for the B covers, it is meant to say, hey, this is your incentive to buy this book. Buy this book,
Yeah.
please, right? And thus, it is giving the notion that the book is not selling as good.
Yeah.
And so you, as soon as you saw it, it's like, God damn,
Yeah.
Chip is already needing the help of Art Germ.
Yeah.
And
I want to
do
say
have
it's
to
not
agree.
100% serious when I talk shit on Chip all the time.
Yeah. But
Granted,
I do have to agree with Raphael that like that Art Germ has popped up on the Batman title at random times. So
okay. I've only ever really seen him when he's on his stints, when he's doing it for a really long time. So I will say that I have not seen him on a Batman title in a really long time, though. That's what I was saying. Like, when was the last time? Like, we've been reading Batman on for a long time, and I don't think he's done any of the last few artists or writers. So, because I don't think he ever did. He do one for King? Like, that was a long run, and I don't think he ever did one for King.
You know what? I think it was all Matina.
Yeah.
I think
So,
Matina was the one that did all of the B covers for King's Run. I know that he has done, like we said, Joel Jones's Catwoman run for sure.
yeah. Yeah. So that's the why I haven't seen him. I have not seen him on a main title book. And so that's why I just kind of made the comment. It was just a snide comment. I mean, I talk shit on Zdarsky all the time, but you shouldn't take all my comments 100% seriously. Oh, shit.
Wait on.
Uh-huh.
Oh, actually, is that Art Germ? That is Art Germ. So he was on Tynan's run.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm going to share my screen again. Viewers, I'm going to be describing these two issues are 108 and 92 specifically here on the Google search. These are from the introduction to, of course, Punchline
Oh,
and
okay.
the introduction to Miracle Molly. They were like the first time, their first appearance on the main covers is the two that I see here. It looks like he was also, let's see here, on Batman 49. This was the wedding issue for
Okay.
Tom King.
Oh, everybody did a cover for that, didn't they? For that in 50
Yes.
or so.
Yes.
So
Uh, this is Batman 132 and 131. These are the most recent books that are coming out and have come out. And then let's see if there has been a like one in that was Catwoman's run.
mhm.
I don't know. I don't think.
Wait, is he doing another one for Batman 133? Did he do one for 133? Go up. What is that Joker one? No, go up one more. One more row. Next one. What is that? Joker.
Yeah, so this is kind of like a connecting, so it's gonna be where is it? 130, 131, 132, 133, and 134 are all gonna be art germ.
And that's right now? That's
Yes.
weird. Because none of those characters are in. Well, I mean, two of these characters are in the story. Maybe three technically. Although you don't see those depictions of them.
Yes, and we will be talking about them right here shortly when we talk about comics. But it looks like Art Germ has been on other runs of Batman, but it's not like he was exclusively there for a while.
Yeah. All right. Well, I stand corrected then. But I do think Chip needs the help because the story sucks. Let's see. Going on from there, we have Turtle who said 1533. Nice Morton impression. I'm sure I was making fun of Snyder fans at that point or something like that. Then we got Nathan. If Joker were to be a major villain in the Batman Part 3, what would make him stand out? I personally think they should keep the goofy aspect of Joker and keep him more in line with the comics. Yeah, I mean, well, they already made him super hideous, so it's kind of hard to go goofy.
They made him super hideous, and they made him a consultant of the Batman. So I think the goofiness, unless Reeves like retcons his own story,
Yeah.
And granted, that part of the story has not been officially released in like a director's cut or anything.
Very
It was
true,
just a
very true.
deleted scene, so you can say it doesn't exist. You can put him as like a more goofier side.
Yeah.
I don't think he. I don't know. It's very hard to kind of see where Reeves is going right now. I think you would have to wait until the second one comes out.
Mhm.
For of course his third film. But I think that if he decides that Joker is going to be the big bad for his third movie, that he does have to stick out. And
Yeah.
you've already kind of had the goofy side with Jack Nicholson. He had the crazy goofy, like freaking taser, like the taser handshake thing,
Yeah.
and doing all the silly stuff. Like, I think with also the route of not comic book goofiness or comic book fantastical, you
Mhm.
can't really do that with Reeves.
Yeah, I think he has to be serious because, like, I mean, you could try to do goofy. I just don't think it's that face and goofy doesn't work for me unless he does really goofy paint, which could be something. I think Reeves would have to flesh it out in his Arkham series, but it kind of
What if,
also.
sorry for interrupting, but what if Reeves were to do the Joker from Hurley Joker Criminal Insanity?
Well, that Joker one is a pretty boy. I don't think those go together, but if you're talking about personality,
Yeah, that's more so what I mean.
I don't think it works unless you have a Harley. Is Batman gonna be Harley? Like in this instance? You know? Who's gonna be I guess Batman's gonna be chasing him and stuff? Like, I don't know. Speaking of Batman, though, kind of weaning off the topic, I personally think that they're gonna go with serious. I think Matt Reeves is just copying the Nolanverse, but making it a little bit more dark and gritty. That's exactly what I think he's doing. I don't think he's doing anything else different, to be honest. But speaking on the Batman, I heard a lot of people being like, "Oh man, I really hope we see the Bat family in Matt Reeves because I think he'll do them right." I don't think you're getting the Bat family period now.
At all. Yeah, no.
I think this is going to be straight Batman for 3 movies and maybe the shows. I do not think, because if I'm not mistaken, Penguins takes place like a week after Batman.
Yeah.
And then his show probably leads right into Batman 2 or the Batman Part 2. And that doesn't give you any time to get a kid or Two-Face's kid or whatever is going to be Robin,
he was like, there was so many people that were like, oh, he looked at the kid in the stadium. Yeah. That's going to be our Robin. And it's like, he's just going to steal a kid? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Kid hasn't even went through anything traumatic yet. Like, come on, man. Just because he's in the stadium. Like, bro, I saw somebody die in a stadium. I didn't want to become Robin. Like, Jesus. Monster Jam 90 something, very young, crazy. But anyways, yeah, dude, Monster Jam. I've went once again. Monster Jam's fun, but it's fun when people don't die. Anyways, freaking, I don't think you're getting the Bat family. It's not gonna happen. Because James Gunn probably doesn't want to have multiple different characters in the universe. And he's like, look, you can play your game. You already started. You're gonna be Elseworlds. Do this kind of stuff. And I don't think, I think if you introduce new characters like that, dude, you saw how he treated Alfred. Alfred wasn't great in that movie. Do you really want Bat family members in that movie? I at least hope they walk faster than Bruce. But yeah, I don't know. So that's it. Moncray with the last comment. Love the coverage in this video. Thank you. If you could have seen 2 Batman characters in this year's Royal Rumble, who would you have seen and why? So you kind of know what the Royal Rumble is, Clay. So obviously the way it works is a countdown, and after the countdown, usually music hits, and if the wrestler is good, they get a huge pop. In terms of wrestling, who do you think would be the 2 people that would get the biggest pop in wrestling?
Well, I mean, I feel like it's a little obvious. You gotta have Bane.
Yeah, that would be, I think, a huge pop. Yeah.
Like, for one, like, just imagine Rey Mysterio coming out with like a Bane mask and outfit. I think that would be pretty. Like, he's a small guy. Don't get me wrong. He's small, but like, even so, because he's already denied the fact that he's going to be playing him in the DCU. If Batista were to come to a Royal Rumble just with the Bane outfit, just to do it one time, fucking hype. That would be absolutely amazing. But another character, because he doesn't necessarily say villain, he says character.
Yeah.
I think another one would have to possibly be maybe Azrael.
Okay, that's a interesting.
Like I'm taking.
You think enough people know him to?
Well, I'm thinking of like the gimmicks of the character.
Yeah,
like, think of Undertaker, but put in Azrael. Like,
okay,
like that's what I'm thinking of as far as like the lights go out, the fires going, like get people absolutely hyped about these characters coming through. And you see fucking Azrael, like just some badass music going on when he's running to that freaking match. I think that would be fucking awesome.
Yeah, I would definitely pick Bane. I think Bane would get a huge pop because he's got the wrestler origin. Bane in the city that it happened this year in San Antonio, huge Latino city. So I think that would be very, very popular as well. And my other one is the Royal Rumble. Normally, back when Vince McMahon was running everything, always usually had a goofy entrant. So I'm going Condiment King. I think Condiment King coming out with mustard guns and ketchup and like shooting it into the crowd with some goofy ass music. And he's like, yeah, come out in his chones with the thing. I think the pickle hat. I think people would freak out. I think they would love it. They would be so confused at the start because like Burger King music's on the fucking Titantron or whatever. And he's just coming out squirting shit. Yeah. I think I would go Condiment King and bang. So that is
funny.
Where it would be, ladies and gentlemen. But now moving on to the comic reviews. Let's just knock out Gotham City since Clay didn't read it. And this is actually going to be issue number 5. So if I remember correctly, in the last issue, we found out Thomas Wayne was the bad guy, if I'm not mistaken, or like he's kind of behind everything.
Yes, because I believe I can never remember her name, Mrs. Wayne, was telling Slam like, you really fucked up, man. Like he's going crazy. You don't understand. And then it kind of insinuated, oh, it's Wayne. He's the one that is behind all this.
Yeah. So in this story, we find out that, the Catwoman-like lady who's been kind of handling the messages is Thomas, or not Thomas Wayne, but Wayne. His name's not Thomas, is it? Am I wrong? I call him
it's
Thomas.
not Thomas.
Mr. Wayne.
I can't remember his first name in this one.
Roger, Richard, something like that, maybe. Anyways, Mr. Wayne. It's his side piece. So he's been having an affair with this woman.
Wow.
Which you find really interesting because throughout this whole series, you've gotten the vibe that he might be a little on the racist side. He makes comments about, freaking, I was going to say colored people, wrong terminology every time, but people of color, dyslexia. And he makes comments about them. And he says that. So you're just kind of like, oh, he's not a nice dude, but he's been seeing this woman. And we also find out Mr. Wayne doesn't really have any money. He's not doing well with money. And so he needs to get rid of...
And you were right. It's Richard.
Okay, it's Richard. He needs to devise a plan to get some of his money or get a divorce or whatever. He can't get a divorce because he will... his Mrs. Wayne will take half or take a majority of it. So he doesn't want to do that. So he kind of wants to have something happen to where he can get his money back. So they come up with this plan of kidnapping his daughter, essentially. And what ends up happening is, I think it is, so what ends up happening too is the affair is found out by Slam's partner. Because Slam's partner apparently was like an ex-con. And like, he's like a good, rough guy on the street. So he knows how to do things. So he gets photos of the affair. And he's all like, you're going to meet me at this place where they meet. And it ends up Mr. Wayne. I think it's Mr. Wayne that shoots Slam's partner. So he's the reason he killed him. And then they plan it all on Slam, obviously. And if I'm telling it right, I read this a while back. And then so what ends up happening is he starts saying, like, we're going to meet outside of Gotham. We're going to go meet in a place or whatever. Mr. Wayne never shows up. And she's like, what's happening? What's going on? And it turns out, I feel like I'm missing out some important parts. But something goes wrong with the whole kid situation. And I am definitely telling it wrong. That's why I wish you would have read this issue, because it's been so long since I've read it. But I know there's a moment when Slam is talking to, I forget what the girl's name is. Is it, I feel like it has something to do with Moon. Is that her nickname? But he takes her to, I got this vibe that we learned that Slam is biracial. Because I obviously can't tell with the color, color palette. Queenie, okay. Slam takes his mother to go, or takes Queenie to go see a fortune teller. And this fortune teller can apparently tell when somebody's lying or something like that by asking certain questions. And obviously these are drawings and the color palette's very different, but Queenie looks kind of similar to the fortune teller. So I'm like, oh, is that why Slam, like, because Slam is like all about like, oh, they're just normal people. Like, why do you judge them the way you judge them? So maybe we found out that he's biracial. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell with the color palette, like I said.
Yeah.
And because I also think there's something that mentions like Slam doesn't know his dad, but I guess he looks a lot like him or something like that. So that could be a thing too, because he's a junior. And so I believe his dad was also a detective, if I'm not mistaken. So that could be increasing that storyline, which I think is very interesting. But she ends up like, freaking out, and because the lady's asking her all these questions, and she's like, I don't want to deal with this, because Slam, she doesn't want to get caught up in what's going on with the Waynes. Like, that's the biggest thing. She's like, this wasn't supposed to happen. The baby wasn't supposed to die and all that kind of stuff. So she's like trying to help Slam now. She's like, you're the only one that can help, because, I'm going to get caught with this, and you're going to get caught with this. And we both don't want to get caught with this, because nobody's going to beat the Waynes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like they're working together now. And there's a riot is starting to happen because of what happened to the baby. So like the town is just going crazy because they found the baby in her cousin's backyard. That's her cousin. So that's kind of going on. Slam is like, I got to keep you safe, Queenie. So you're going to stay in this apartment. You're not going to leave because I got to go take care of some stuff. Slam goes and beats up Wayne's bodyguards because they're like, you're the one that killed the fucking kid. I know it because you're doing shady stuff with Wayne. And I know you're working with Wayne. And then it's revealed that he's like, we don't fucking work for Wayne. We work for his wife. And his wife hired them to keep tabs on Wayne because he was spending all their money. So plot twist.
So she killed the baby.
She's apparently the mastermind behind it all, is the vibe I get at the end of this story. So now he's driving to the Wayne's house at the end of this book.
So also, for people who are not necessarily reading this book, but like are just listening here, and people are wondering, why is there an entire city riot over one child being dead?
Yeah.
You need to understand that this was 60s, 50s?
Yeah, it takes place in the 60s. It takes place in the 60s, but King said on that podcast in his brain it's taking place in the 40s.
Either way,
yeah,
I think it still works out this way, that communities were still very much like segregation was, like, hey, we're going to try to fix things. And so when people of color did things or were assumed to do things and there wasn't justice, hang them, all this stupid stuff, cities went fucking nuts.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Like, that's why this is going on, because I could easily see somebody being like, why the hell is the city going crazy?
Yeah.
Like, that is very easily something that could be seen as realistic.
I mean, you can also just look at media coverage nowadays. When a young white woman gets murdered or killed or has gone missing, everybody comes out. But change it up, not so much. So, that still happens today in different forms. But for the most part, pretty crazy plot twist. So they were going into the last issue, and it seems like Mrs. Wayne is the bad guy here, and Mr. Wayne was just a guy that liked to fool around with women and lose all his money
and
gambling
and use a lot of money.
Yeah. So very interesting here, because my biggest question, Clay, how does this continue the Wayne legacy? How does Thomas Wayne get born? I'm so intrigued on how that continues, because their one heir is dead, unless she has another child from somebody else that will continue the Wayne legacy. I don't know where this is going. Or is this going to be a story of rich people getting away with it, and then they just make another baby that is going to be...
There's that. That's very much a very high possibility.
Mm-hmm.
But there's the theory that we had that we were not too keen on, that Slam at the end of this book is like, Batman, I'm your grandpappy. Like,
Wayne did, Brady did fuck his mom or his great grandma or whatever. So it's possible.
Yeah.
That would be a weird twist. I actually don't know. I'd have to play it out to see how I feel about that. But at the same time, I just don't want the Waynes are always tied to a bat or something kind of thing. Like that's the main thing I don't want, which King has kind of hinted at twice.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just a random coincidence because technically I don't know if this is the manor that they've all lived at this whole time. You know what I mean?
It kind of looks like it.
Because if that's the case, maybe Mr. Wayne got the Batman name because the cave would technically still exist under that manor, right? So they probably see bats all the time. Maybe that's where it comes from, which I could see that. But, it's still not the best explanation, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, so interested to see how this is going to end with what we assume is Mrs. Wayne being a bad person. And again, in these noir stories, the femme fatale is always the troublemaker. So going to be very interesting to see where this ends. If you have not read Gotham City, it's obviously going to be in a trade after this. Pick it up. It is a fantastic story. And we'll see what happens at the end of it because Batman's he hasn't been in the issues 2 through 4 or 5, it seems like. So he's got to show up at the end of this and see what's going to happen. And this is one of those ones where I'm just like, oh, what are you going to do, King? Because you could make me really not like this. So we'll see on the next issue, but there's that one. But moving on from Tom King to Chip Zdarsky in Batman 132. Now, I read this a long time ago, Clay. I'm assuming you read this recently. Although I sent you things from this book.
Oh, no, yeah, you did. You did.
Yeah.
Because I remember that last page, and I'm just like, oh, God, this wasn't just a dream.
It is bad. It's bad.
So, with this book, we're still in this otherworldly Gotham multiverse thing. And it seems that Bruce Wayne has spent some more time here. It's been a while. He has been like liberating some people off the street. He's fighting these Venom drugged up GCPD. And there's kind of like the safe haven that everybody's staying at.
Yeah.
And he's talking to this kid that helped him in the end of last issue. And her name is Jewel. And she has these like small little like anxiety, like adrenaline attacks at the end of like every single night. And she's like, oh yeah, the adrenaline just needs to like just calm. I just need to calm down. I think I'm good. And we see this whole skeleton Jim Gordon thing happening again.
Yeah.
But Jewel actually sees Batman reacting to this Ghost Gordon. And he's like, oh, well, it's just some multiverse sickness or whatever. And she's like, no, it's not multiverse sickness. There's actually fear gas in the air. Take these. And Bruce is like, so everybody just takes these every day? And she's like, well, when you can find them. And here's the distributor. And she says, Holiday Industries. And it is from Bruce says the name sounds familiar. He's like, oh, that must be this world's Wayne Enterprises. Which I guess, like, I don't know how he makes that big of a leap to be like, oh, that must mean he is the conglomerate in Gotham instead of the Waynes. But we see this like the Red Mask crew again.
Yeah.
And we see what was he being called? The Judge?
Right? Oh yeah. Yeah. I think he's called the Judge. Yeah, it says the Judge's Chambers. Yeah.
Yeah, Harvey Dent. But we find out that Harvey Dent is not in control of the venom that he is consuming, is actually this Red Mask dude.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can take it away and I can give it back to you. Just remember who I am and remember who you are and where your place is. He's like, yes, sir.
Yeah.
And they're saying, you need to go find this Bruce Wayne because it's definitely not our Bruce Wayne. Again, don't know what happened to this Bruce Wayne, but we all know that he died in some capacity. They end up finding out that they need to go to this banquet that is happening at this gala, or it was a gala at this again, Tower Enterprises of whoever. This is a brand new Gotham. I have no idea. And Bruce Wayne essentially creates the Matches Malone character, but calls him Wilson Texion. Don't know why.
Yeah. I mean, it's a different world. You could have used Matches Malone.
Exactly. And he's like, oh, well, I could pretend to be rich. I've been doing that my entire life. And so he goes to this gala as Wilson. And literally one of the first people he meets is Selena Kyle. And she immediately knows who he is.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, shit, what's going to happen? She is kind of like, they're kind of whispering to each other, it looks like. So it's a very intimate conversation. Bruce Wayne sees a glimpse of somebody up on a balcony, immediately thinks of Joker.
Yeah, I hated that. That was so dumb, in my opinion. He's like, I know that face.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think I like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's really weird because, again, we get to the point of every Batman conversation usually does. What happened first, the chicken or the egg? What happened first, the villains or Batman?
Yeah.
We have kind of a definitive answer in our Prime Earth with Tynion's story, with how Batman came first, and then the villains were kind of inspired by that of oh shit, what was that one character's name that we thought was going to be really, really awesome until we found out that the designer. Yeah. So here it really looks like the villains were always here and there were never really any heroes. We see a hulked out or I guess Venom out punchline here.
Yeah, just so weird.
That was very odd. We see a Killer Croc, and this doesn't make any sense. He lights a match, and then what I assume is Killer Croc flies out of a window.
Yeah. I don't know where he got this weapon from. I mean, I guess there is a scene, or there is there's a moment when I'm going to assume Robin of this story drops out a bunch of stuff from their bag. And so like, I'm assuming he was hiding this little explosive that he had. But yeah, I know there's this theory and he kind of says it here, right? He's like, need another day. These people are in the tower. Like, this is a new universe. I understand that Killer Croc in the other world can take a lot of damage. And he just kind of assumed that this Killer Croc could too.
Yeah, he's just like, oh, he'll live. And he blew him out of what looks like freaking 40, 50, 100 stories.
Yeah, it looks like a very tall building, and Killer Croc is going to fly all the way to the ground. If you're going to do this thing, you need to show that he lives. Like, everybody knows me in video games. I always try to take out the characters you couldn't. In Spider-Man, I was trying so hard to get people to hit that ground, but they automatically get taped to the fucking building, which makes no sense to me, but whatever. Here, I thought that was kind of dumb. This is a whole new universe. How do you know Killer Croc can survive that? Like, I think Zdarsky's taken some liberties there. Granted, he's fallen from the moon before. He has no problem.
I hated that line. God damn it.
Yeah.
So
we're not even there yet.
So
because
security comes in and like starts to like shoot up everybody. Trying to shoot at Bruce Wayne. They get him in the shoulder and
you're missing that he saw Alfred.
He sees Alfred. That's the big thing. That's what makes him like freeze. He sees Alfred. And he's like, no, can't get distracted. It's not my Alfred. Oh, feelings, toxic masculinity growing. Oh.
Yeah.
And he gets shot in the shoulder. He falls down. And it kind of looks like Selena refuses to like cut the line because it's her whip that he is hanging from. And she decides not to pull it or to like loosen it up or anything. And he just decides, hey, I'm going to jump off the side of this building. And the line literally says, I have fallen from the moon. I can survive this. I can survive this. How can, tell me, a fall from a side of a building to the roof of one building fuck him up more than a fall from the fucking moon?
If I had to play devil's advocate, people are going to say because when he fell from the moon, he had all his gadgets and he had his cape.
And he
That's
was
what they're
sniffing
gonna say.
underwear.
Yes.
He didn't have his magic sniffing underwear. Yeah.
I fucking hated that line. I sent that to Clay and I was all like, this is horrible. I hate that that's still a fucking thing that you need to reference. And
and I just see right now, you do see Killer Croc.
Oh, okay. Well, then there you go. Corrected. I will take back my statement.
I missed it the first time. So
Yeah.
I just saw it here.
I do still think the idea of you just assuming that they'll live is still kind of dumb because you're on a whole nother planet. You don't know if Killer Croc has the same body that he has from your universe. So I still think that that statement is factual. But anyways, it's comics. You got to kind of just let it go. And Bruce is injured, surviving this fall. And we see Skeleton Gordon come back. And we see a cop abusing a woman in an alleyway. Bruce, being Bruce, is like, I got to help this woman. Beats the shit out of this cop. People in the city or somebody in the city sees this happen. And Bruce is kind of knocked out right next to this cop. And as he's laying in the ground, Skeleton Gordon's like, you need to strike fear. Strike fear. And Bruce is looking up at the sky on a telephone pole. Hanging upside down is a bat. And he says, yes, yes, Gotham, I shall become a bat. This was some of the cringiest fucking dialogue I have ever read. And I recently read that Catwoman issue, which had some of the worst dialogue.
It's bad because you are essentially saying, hey, I'm creating Batman right now. This is a Bruce Wayne that has already been Batman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would he say that to himself?
And you want to know what people's arguments are going to be? They're going to be like, he's broken. He's lost. So he's trying to come back. Clay, can you enlighten me on somebody that did that over the course?
Yeah. That has been your big thing. Oh, these are all stories that Chip has written before.
Not Chip, other people.
Yes,
you said Chip has written, but yes.
Sorry. Yes, that Chip is taking inspiration, quote unquote, or in your way of saying, stealing stories that other people have written, and this is not compelling to me whatsoever because you haven't given me the right hook.
Yeah.
Like, whenever it comes to multiverse stories, you need to give me more than just, hey, these are all the same characters. Oh, these are amalgam of characters. Like, you're not doing anything to Bruce that is giving me the, like, oh shit, like, this is going to be a badass story. Like, call me a jaded comic book reader, but like amalgam of characters or like a different version of the same character, that's not going to get me.
Yeah.
The story is what's going to get me.
I agree.
And right now, the story is not getting me whatsoever.
I have two problems here. One, Zdarsky, you have given me no time to see that this is a broken Bruce. No time whatsoever. He got zapped to another universe and instantly started doing Batman things. Like, he's not broken. Everybody hates how long Tom King took for Bruce to get back on the wagon, but I felt Bruce was going through some shit. You know what I mean? Like, they nicknamed him Emo Batman for a reason because he was going through his feels. But I felt that from the perspective of Bruce Wayne through and Batman. Here, if that's what you're trying to sell me on, you did a bad job. You need to go back to the drawing board because this is terrible. And now he's going to be a bat. He never stopped being the bat. He just got hit by a laser beam. Like, I don't understand it because you haven't given me any reason for him to think that he can't be Batman because he lost. Is that, if I'm not mistaken, Tinian showed us that Batman got taught how to lose. Granted, he never showed us. He just said it.
Yeah.
But I was shown that in comic books. I don't know what I think Zdarsky is doing too much. And I said this at the start of his run, if I'm not mistaken, or a little bit into it. Him writing Daredevil, Batman, and his other shit, just like Snyder was doing when he was like, oh shit, I'm about to leave DC and write all my own books and gear up for like all my movies that I'm going to be selling or whatever. But I also got to do all this other Batman shit. I think they just don't think about what they're writing, or they're not like actually spending enough time on it. They're just like, let me pop it out, you know?
Yeah.
And I think this is bad. Like, I don't know who. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people on Twitter that think this is amazing. Like this is something like a breath of fresh air. And maybe those are new comic book readers, right? So they haven't read all of these past stories that are very similar, you know? And maybe that's for the people that I love it. But for the most part, I think this is just boring. And the second thing I want to talk about is, dude, why is it that every time we go to another world, there has to be characters that are very similar? Why can't we just have a fresh new world where like he's just like, I don't know this world. I don't know anything about this. I don't want there to be a Selena. I don't want there to be an Alfred. I don't want there to be a Robin, you know? Like, why can't it just be brand new characters? And Bruce is like, what is this world, you know?
Yeah.
And he has to get along. He has to meet new people. And I'm just tired of how there's always like a playbook or a template on how you have to write Batman in a new setting. And I think this just sucks. I will say, what?
Sorry, on Twitter I did a search for Batman 132.
Yeah.
There is this, so somebody did the last page. They posted the last page and they're like, peak is on the horizon. Bruce really about to become Batman again.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't see people liking this. Now, granted, I know Zdarsky has said, if you don't like my stuff, fuck you. But I think that was a joke. But yeah, man, I think this is another one of those things where he's probably being told, and obviously the sales, right? The sales probably look great, and he probably thinks people love this. I just don't think this is a good book, man. I don't think it's good. I think we've said this on the podcast before. If this wasn't the main Batman title, we would have dropped it already, because there's nothing exciting happening here. And what are we going to do this arc's probably going to last another 3 issues, maybe 4.
So a Punchline fan page posted, so Batman 32 just dropped, and we know more. We know a little bit more about the version of Alexis. Namely, she isn't Punchline, which is fine enough if there's no Joker. That name, it makes no sense. But Crimson sure is a lame name. She also gets taken out super easy, and so they're upset about it. It's true. Like, he calls her Punchline. Again, of course, that's the only like name that he knows her by.
Yeah.
Which, again, one thing that I kind of miss about Batman is like calling them by their real names.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And more so because he knows that pisses them off, because they've created a title for themselves, you know?
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I have completed all of the Harley Quinn Spotify audio drama.
Oh, really? I've gotten through the first 3 episodes, I think.
And I just want to say, Justin Hartley's Batman voice, really good. I actually really like it.
I don't think I've gotten to that yet.
You know, you've haven't even met Batman or Bruce Wayne yet in the 2 versions that are the 2 episodes that you've listened to.
But Joker, not great, right?
He gets better.
Okay.
I will say. But I do get, there's just a small tangent here.
Yeah.
Bruce, Juice said at one point that, like, when people try to play Joker, they try really hard to do that of a Heath Ledger. They try to do that of a Mark Hamill. And the first episode or 2 that you hear this version of the Joker, it's very much that like draw.
Yeah.
But like, as he gets into the character and as the audio drama goes on, it turns into its own thing.
Yeah.
And it is enjoyable.
Yeah. I surprisingly, as I've been watching Harley Quinn on HBO Max, I like that Joker. I think that Joker is good.
Yeah.
And I think that's a new Joker, if I'm not mistaken, right? I don't think that's Tom Baker or anybody else.
No, it's the Joker from Harley Quinn, the animated show.
Yeah.
It's Alan Tudyk.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah. No, I think he does a good version of Joker. So, yeah, Batman 132, stupid in my opinion. I don't think anybody is surprised by that. It hasn't been good, so that's our opinion.
Yeah.
Did you read the backup?
I wanted to,
Okay.
but at the time that I was reading this, again, father duties came up, and I was just like, I'll read this later. So I didn't have the time to read it.
Okay.
But
one thing I want to point out is Zdarsky did show the Tim Drake boyfriend in it. So I've always said if you're going to do these kind of things, you should do them in the main Batman title. Granted, this is a backup, but he did it. So I was like, okay, cool. Bring that to the forelight because it's been in a bunch of...
Which is when you type in Batman 132, a majority of the comments about the story overall is about the backup.
Yeah. So the backup is more interesting than the main story. I will say that. Because he starts working with Mr. Terrific to try to find Batman. And there's this like underlying Toyman story that's going on. Toyman apparently killed himself with this laser gun that I guess kind of did the same thing Batman did. He got teleported somewhere else. And so what ends up happening is Tim Drake, if I'm not mistaken, I always thought Drake was a gamer. But in this scenario, Drake just wants to watch his boyfriend play games, which I guess you could do that even if you are a gamer. I mean, I do watch people on stream, so I guess I relate. But so there's that. I will say the drawings are very different when he's in normal clothes and when he's like in a suit. He looks so much more buff in a suit.
I was skimming the pages and I was like, God damn, Tim.
Yeah, it's like he's on Venom himself. Well, he gets a suit that Mr. Terrific has been designing to jump to other worlds, which I think is very intriguing.
This makes him look like Jason. Like just the overall like color scheme and then having the green mask, he doesn't look like Tim Drake. He looks that big that he could be Jason Todd.
Yeah. So I like this whole story of jumping to other universes with technology, and because it also kind of reminds me of the Savior. That character he becomes later in the future. So I think that's kind of cool. And what ends up happening is Toyman, the underlying story is Toyman was taking a lot of women or taking a lot of people from cities and they were disappearing. And then he offed himself. And what we find out is he offed himself to another parallel universe where all of these people that disappeared are chained up in a barn. And that's what Tim Drake finds. And that's how the story ends. So, because Toyman shows up, he's like, don't touch my toys. And so, yeah, while I can get on board with Tim Drake trying to go jumping universes to find Batman.
So here's the thing, though. Would you enjoy it more if Chip was writing Tim Drake? Then I feel like it is a definite yes. But do you think that this story is more compelling in the sense of like this should be the main Tim Drake story?
Compared to his other book right now?
Well, and what I mean by that is like you've seen the writing style of Tim Drake because you've read the first issue.
Yes.
And then you've read this. Like, do you think Chip should retire as a Batman writer and just go to Tim Drake?
Yes, 100%. Same thing as Tynion should have retired as a Batman writer and wrote Harley Quinn. Yeah. I think when you see somebody have strengths, you write their strengths. Like that's what you should do. Editorial should fucking learn that, but they're not going to because comics you have to plan in advance because artists need to draw that, yada, 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 right? Yeah. But yeah, I think Zdarsky, again, man, I've said this throughout the history of this podcast. Some people can write Batman and others can't. I think Zdarsky, Tynion, a little bit of Williamson have shown they cannot write Batman. And I just don't think it really works. I think, and here's the thing too, the art in that book looks great, in my opinion. I don't know how you feel in the backup. I think it looks great. That is the respect you should be giving to Tim Drake instead of that goofy ass
Riley Rosmo.
Yeah. Granted, Riley Rosmo works well for gimmicky books around Halloween, Dead Man, all of that kind of stuff, the spooky stuff. don't think it works when you're trying to build a character in Tim Drake that is exploring his sexuality, which is really important now. Don't give him goofy art. Give him badass art that people can't be like, I didn't read that book because the art sucks. You know what I mean? Like, team him up with a badass artist and tell a story like this. And it didn't focus on it. He just had a page where it's just like, oh yeah, I have a boyfriend. I can't wait to see him, but I'm going on a dangerous mission, so I just want to have more moments like this. I'm like, okay, that is something a normal relationship goes through. It's relatable, bada bing, bada boom. Then he goes on his Batman adventures. I think that is a solid way to tell the story, and it's in the main Batman book instead of a side story that nobody's going to read. So, like, I think they kind of, you know, if you're going to do backups, when they did the original story between him and that boyfriend, should have happened in a backup in the Batman book. But it happened in Urban Legends or some random ass book. But anyways, I'm glad it's getting some play in the main title. But yeah, it is a better, more compelling story than what is happening in Batman. But it's also only like 8 pages, 12 pages, something like that. So maybe
for the backup, let's see here. 1,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh,
Yeah.
8. Yeah.
Okay, so 8. So maybe we just cut his page count down. All right, you can write Batman, but it's only 8 pages. So you actually have to write a good story. You know what I mean? Maybe that's what we do. But I just don't, I'm not feeling Zdarsky right now. I haven't been. But I think we made this mention. How is he going to do when he doesn't have an amazing artist on the story? And I think we're seeing the story is lacking hardcore.
Yeah.
Because I think, you know, Punchline or Crimson would have looked way better with Jimenez drawing, you know? Same thing with Selena would have looked way better with Jimenez drawing. And they don't look great. And so, yeah, I'm curious. This is the Daredevil writer, by the way, or artist, apparently, right? Or am I wrong?
No, this is not the Daredevil artist, no.
I could have sworn he said he's teaming up with his Daredevil artist. Maybe they're doing covers? Are they doing covers at all? I don't know.
I'll have to see. I think
I thought he made that comment. I could be wrong.
Michael Cicchetto is, and I may have pronounced that wrong, but he's the one that did the Daredevil stuff. So
okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, well, that's kind of Batman right now. I don't know. I wish Detective was at least exciting. I feel like we haven't talked about good Batman stories in a while. I felt like we reviewed this book a long time ago, by the way. I don't know if you had that same feeling. I feel like it's been a long time since we reviewed Batman.
It feels like it, yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. But that is this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Clay, what do you got going on this week, man?
So this week, by the time we are recording this, and by the time this is out, Katie and I have reviewed the mid-season finale of season 2 of The Bad Batch over at Star Wars Alliance. So go check that out. The next week, Ranger Alliance is going to be there with the review of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, to issue number 2 review. So go check that out. We had a lot of fun there. So go check those out as soon as they are, of course, released.
Nice. I am still in pre-production mode on everything. So I do stream usually Tuesdays and Fridays right now on my YouTube Shorts channel and on Twitch. So go follow either of those, or come join the Discord if you guys want to talk to us outside of the podcast, or just leave your comments on the YouTube section. But that is going to be it for this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. As always, he is Fanboy Clay. I am Juice Wayne. And remember, Batman is awesome.